For your halftime entertainment, we celebrate the 43-year reign of the speed metal kings, Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage with the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Post-game reaction time, Auburn versus Tennessee, and what has been a great matchup over the last several years. No matter which Pearl is there, your Auburn Tigers are not victorious in Knoxville today. We'll talk about it. We're going to get into the stats, individual and team stats, and all the storylines amongst that led us to that score. Let's get into those different things right now. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down and discuss, share the Auburn experience, all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, though, if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. So thank you so much for joining us. And what we're going to be doing this evening, live reaction to Auburn men's basketball versus Tennessee in Rocky Top. Your Auburn Tigers fall by the score of 77-69 on a night where there was a lot of turmoil outside of the arena with the weather that is plaguing the Southeast right now, but also maybe ran over a little bit into the offenses tonight, even Auburn's offense as well. We'll talk about it, certainly. Our goal is to break it all down, try to find the reasons, talk about the stories amongst all of those things, the individual and the team stats. But first, we want to welcome you here, especially those of you that chose to watch this live. As you are watching live this evening, let us know that you're here with a hello, War Eagle, however you'd like to. It's always appropriate, no matter in a win or a loss, if you have a player of the game or somebody that you want to give a shout out to in this particular live stream format, you can do that as well. We also thank you guys that catch the replay of this, audio or visual, and we appreciate that very much as well. However you got here, whenever you got here, we appreciate it. So 77-69, your Auburn Tigers fall. Before we get into all the other things, just some opening thoughts from me tonight. This one seems pretty cut and dry to me. This was a team that had the advantage at home and did a lot of things really well tonight. And got themselves a lead early that when you're playing mostly that well in a lot of the key areas, it's going to be hard to overcome outside of some very big moments for the visiting team, that being Auburn this evening. The other big storyline of the night is that Stephen Pearl returns for the first time as a head coach of Auburn to play in Knoxville, his alma mater. He played for his dad, Bruce Pearl, when he was at Tennessee, obviously. And so that's some cool storylines there. Maybe not as big and emotional as when Bruce first went back there, but those were still some cool storylines there as well. I don't know what his reception was like at Tennessee, but I hope it was at least cordial for the most part outside of the game. They were for Bruce, at least. But either way, those are just some things outside of the game that were at play there to discuss this evening, at least to start off with. Let's dive into it. Certainly, we'll walk through individuals first here to kind of talk through how each of these different players did, and then we'll start kind of piecing together the stories and the rest of the flow of the game. Your leading scorer tonight, and if you were going to give out players of the game, Keyshawn Hall, I know you've heard this before, and it was a very slow night for him to start off with as well. Keyshawn Hall tonight, with 21 points, leads the way for your Auburn Tigers. 7 of 17 from the field, 3 of 9 from the three-point arc, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. You know it's an off night when Keyshawn Hall is missing some free throws. Well, he misses at least 1 or 2 a night, but he's also shooting like 15 plus, it seems like, a night, not so much this evening. It seemed like he was nursing something on his, I think it was his shooting hand this evening. That's a storyline we'll track down as well. Some of the injuries or ailments, whatever, that were affecting Auburn throughout this game, the flow of everything. Auburn, I think, had an uphill battle here being on the road as well, just that in general, and showed the ability to kind of keep this from getting out of hand when it could have gotten out of hand at times. Anyway, back to Keyshawn Hall, 21 points. It was 4 for 5 from the free throw line. I'm sorry, 4 for 6, I said, but you get the gist of it. 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 3 steals for him tonight, 35 minutes of play. And just so you know, nobody had a positive plus minus tonight if you track that sort of thing this evening. So that's the kind of what you have to look forward to in some of these individual stats tonight. Your next leading scorer is a far cry from Keyshawn Hall, and that's probably the thing tonight that was missing, is somebody giving a little bit of extra pop here. The closest one to that, Tahad Pettiford, who has traditionally this season played very well on the road as opposed to at home, whether that's a neutral site or a true away game. So Tahad tonight is your second leading scorer with only 11 points, 4 for 14 from the field, 2 for 11 from the three-point arc, and that's going to be a common theme for the team as we go throughout it this evening and get into that. He makes his free throw, 3 total rebounds, 7 assists. He is, once again, as your starting point guard, the leading assist getter tonight. 1 steal for him, only 2 turnovers. That's your stat line for Tahad Pettiford, and that's your only 2 guys in double digits tonight. Now, everybody else that scored, got some points, more than just a bucket or 2. Everybody was contributing tonight, but there was just this a missing pop from someone else. Say Kevin Overton. Well, let's just talk about that. Kevin Overton apparently takes a shot to the head, and I was unfortunately kind of distracted at the time, so it looked like they panned over to see it, check on him, and it looked like he was back on the floor in some way or something like that after getting off the floor. So I don't really have the update on him or what happened with that, but he was back on the sideline. But he did take a shot to the head. It looked like, I think maybe even inadvertently, that kept him out for the majority or the rest of the game, I think is what it was. Kevin Overton tonight with, 30 points. I think maybe he did get back in if that's the case. 7 points, 2 for 10 from the field, 1 for 7 from the three-point arc. He had a lot of opportunities tonight, just not on it. Made his 2 free throws, 3 rebounds, 1 steal for him. So there is your there's your stat line for Mr. Kevin Overton. I hope he is doing well this evening. Back up to in order of things here in terms of leading scorers. Sebastian Williams-Adams, once again, making an impact early in the game. I thought he showed, once again, his versatility as a big man is very evident even as a freshman, and he showed that again tonight. Doesn't show up exorbitantly in the stat sheet. 9 points for him, 3 for 5 from the field, 3 for 4 from the free throw line for him, which is really good. Traditionally, he's not been one of our better free throw shooters, but he does handle that. Only 2 rebounds for him. So there you go. That's Sebastian Williams-Adams this evening. Keep moving down the rest of your stats here. We talked about Kevin Overton, also tied at 7 points. Elijah Freeman, who had probably the highlight of the game. I think we all can agree with that. The most exciting play was that breakaway alley-oop, and I forget who dished it to him. I think it was Tahad, but went up and from a very great distance took the alley-oop and slammed it in. Really big energy play. Elijah's always good for that. Certainly, we'd like to see him get back to some of the scoring abilities that we saw early in the season. 7 tonight. He makes 1 of his 3-pointers, 3 for 8 from the field, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, 2 personal fouls, no turnovers. So an okay night for Elijah Freeman. Everybody left. We missed Philip Jovic in us going down. I went all out of order there for you guys. I'm sorry this evening. Philip Jovic tonight. I do want to park it here for a second and continue to talk about the importance of him on this team, especially when you are lacking a little bit. Not necessarily in the way people describe the size category, but just the bodies of the bigger men tonight, this season, with Emeka Oporum not being able to be utilized this season. How strong he has come on. 8 points tonight, 2 for 2 from the field. He's like one of the most efficient guys in the world because he's just playing his role and sticking to it and trying to do it to the best of his ability. Doesn't shoot well from the free throw line tonight, 4 of 8. But he does get a total of 7 rebounds. So 8 points, 7 rebounds, getting close to that double-double range for him. He has an assist, 2 steals for him. So he was doing a little bit of everything tonight, that being Filip Jovic. And I thought twice, maybe a third, twice I know of, times with a 3-point play that made it very clutch for Auburn in the moment. Talking about clutch, how about that halftime shot from Kevin Overton, making that 3-pointer and then getting fouled and making that 4-point play opportunity to get it back to 10 points deficit at the half. So there's a little bit of and Keyshawn Murphy tonight, 6 points, 3 for 7 from the field, 7 rebounds. He's your leading rebound. 7 rebounds tonight. He's your leading rebound getter. 1 block, 1 steal. Not the best offensive performance night for him, but certainly it's there is that at least to talk about tonight for him. So that's it. And I think you can kind of tell the way I'm talking about tonight, outside of a few exciting plays, the Kevin Overton halftime shot, the Elijah Freeman alley-oop. Everybody was doing okay tonight. It's not like it was the worst game in the world that Auburn's ever played, but they just they didn't have that extra pop tonight, either as an individual and as we'll get to in the teams, to overcome some of the categories where Tennessee took advantage of their home court advantage and was really successful tonight. And kudos to them. I think both teams are in a similar place. You saw their records are very similar, at least their SEC records. Maybe not so much anymore, but coming into the game. So you're taking some, you're lost to a team on the road that is not that bad. And I would hate to think that some people are going to take the route they took this with the Missouri game or something like that. Winning on the road in the SEC pretty much everywhere, every season is a tough thing. So keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the stats and our discussions tonight. All right, a couple things here. This is from Blake. As before we transition over, tough environment tonight. It was going to be hard to get a road win in Tennessee. We looked a little tired tonight, in my opinion. We went hard during that 4-win streak. Probably a little bit of that there. You could make that case, Blake. Certainly a lot of effort expended there, and 1 more on the road. It's just a tough thing to do. I think this team performed pretty well overall. This is from Unbeaten Lake in the same vein. At least we went 4-1 in this stretch, which was very much needed. Yeah, when you put it into the fullness of this conversation about this road stretch that Auburn has had, or just tough stretch in general, it's a one that you can walk away with taking some solace out of that. But back to the Tennessee game and breaking this down a little bit further. We have done all the individual stats. No one really offered a player of the game for Auburn. Not surprised in the loss, but if there is a shout out, if there is something that you want to call someone out for in a good way, or just constructive criticism that you'd like for us to dive into, you can certainly drop that in here, and we'll come back around to it as we still focus on this Tennessee game a little bit more. Team stats tonight. This is where we really get into it and talk about what happened, why it happened, kind of figure it all out, put the pieces of the puzzle together for the 77-69 score, Auburn losing to Tennessee. Tonight, we're going to look to start off with, as we always do, the big 3. Free throws, turnovers, rebounds. What do we got here? Free throws tonight, once again, not horrendous for Auburn or for Tennessee, a little bit less than what we've seen for Auburn lately with 70%. A few key misses here certainly hurt that percentage. 81% for Tennessee, though, is excellent. At home, making those free throws, it's going to make it very difficult on any away team. So they win that category and make Auburn's life a little bit difficult, even though they don't shoot terribly from the free throw line. So 1 win for them. Turnovers, and this is where Auburn probably could have made a bigger dent than they did. And had they, we might have overcome that lead that they had built for themselves. 10 turnovers tonight for Auburn and 16 for Tennessee. Very much different than the last game where they tied a team record for only 3 turnovers. Granted, it was at home. So they win the turnover category. Not that big of a margin of victory there for Auburn in that category. And we'll talk about the other aspect of what they did with those turnovers in just a little bit. But there's at least a win in there. And I think they could have taken a little bit more advantage of that. Rebounds, 30-46. That's a big margin of victory. And that was really early in the game that Tennessee started building a bigger spread for themselves in the rebounding category. If you break it down, defensive rebounds, 18 to 29, Tennessee wins that one. Offensive rebounds, I thought were going to be the worst one, at least to start off the game. 12 for 17 in Tennessee's favor. That might be the stat of the game right there. We'll wait before we call it and talk about it a little bit further. But there you go. There is the big three. Tennessee wins 2 out of the 3 with a very big margin of victory in the rebounding category for them. So a lot of this is starting to make sense. Like I said to start off the show, the more we talk about this, it's very evident that my assumption was correct. This was just a night where Tennessee did a lot of the normal things well, which Auburn was going to have to do a lot of the normal things exceptionally better to overcome this tonight based on their defense may have been a lot better tonight. As from WT says defense tonight was tough. They took away a lot of the passing lanes in the inside game. You couple that with Auburn not shooting well, that's going to hurt a little bit too in this game. All right, let's go through the rest of the stuff. That's a great segue into the rest of the team stats. Field goal percentage for Auburn, 38% to 44%. Seen worse for Auburn and other teams, but it could have been a lot better. 44% for Tennessee. That's going to be difficult to overcome when they're almost making 1 out of every 2 buckets. 3-point percentage tonight really was an area where Auburn was lacking. 23%, 7 of 31. 7 of 31. It felt like all night if Auburn could just hit a few more of those 3-pointers, they would switch gears on this, because I don't think Auburn led the entire game. I'm correct in that, but they got with it. Took them forever to get past the 4-point differential in the score. When they finally got it down to a 3-point lead for Tennessee, they just couldn't break past that. A couple more threes here and there, even though that still wouldn't be an outstanding 3-point percentage. You might be talking about situationally in this game a little bit different. So not the best shooting night overall for Auburn when you couple all those things together. Not the worst. Could have been better. Certainly would have helped overcome some of the things that Tennessee was doing very well this evening. We talked about the turnovers. Auburn did win that battle, even though it was an outstanding night for them. But points off of turnovers, Auburn wins 19-12. Not a big differential, but I thought we might see a little bit, or hoped we would have taken even more advantage of that than we did. The rest of the stats, Auburn wins the second chance points category. Not much of a margin of victory. Same thing, but flip-flopped on bench points. Tennessee wins that one. Points in the paint. Auburn's traditionally done very well here, but Tennessee did well as well. 32-34, Tennessee wins, but very close to each other. That could have been an opportunity for Tennessee to make this be an actual blowout, but thankfully Auburn did what they normally do in that area. Fast break points, Auburn wins by 3. 1-2, Tennessee wins in blocks. Auburn wins in steals 9-7, assists 13-17. So I think what you just saw here as we walked through that, Tennessee probably won the majority of the categories, and especially the vast majority of the big ones. But Auburn swapped back and forth in a lot of these key areas. Just a different thing happens here, a different thing happens there. Auburn may overcomes that big lead that they gave up to Tennessee early in the game and makes this a much, much different game. And certainly there were a lot of factors, as we talked a little bit earlier. Hall had an injury to his finger. I'm sure it played a factor in the game. He says absolutely. Kevin Overton getting injured as well and being removed from the game. What we were missing tonight was that extra little pop from someone. And it didn't have to be Kevin Overton, but he's certainly been the one as of late that's been doing that for Auburn. Tahad tonight does fine, but not enough we needed someone in the 15 to 16 scoring range category to match Keyshawn Hall, especially as he only came on really late with his scoring tonight. But I do want people to walk away from this, hearing me say this. I always look for what a team does when their best player goes down. What do they look like? Like how much fall off is there? Because when you lose your best player, there's traditionally going to be some type of fall off. We saw that a lot last year with Janai getting hurt several times, and there was basically no fall off. In fact, they won some very big games without Janai. This year, Keyshawn Hall has either been injured, I think once or twice. with that ankle injury, or he's just been off just a couple of times. And each time Auburn has found ways to keep themselves in the game, whether that's because of someone else having a great game, an individual, or they're just doing some things well as a team. Their defense increasingly getting better throughout the season. Their free throws have improved throughout the season. So Auburn's a team that certainly is not perfect. We'll drop games like this on the road against quality opponents if they're just not getting that little bit of extra. But certainly, I think this is still a much better team than some people are willing to give them credit for. But there you go. Tough stretch for the Auburn Tigers. They are mostly successful on it, just not tonight. 77-69 is your final score. I'll give the player of the game to Keyshawn Hall because it's pretty obvious it's him. And I'll say that your key stat of the game is the rebounds with that big differential, 30-46. Tennessee wins that one. 77-69 is your final score. We're not done here, though, so drop some more comments and questions. We'll come back to a few of those that I saved and wrap up this thing, maybe even do a little bit of future talk here on our post-game stream. But before we do that, let me give you a few reminders here of what we got for you this week. This isn't the only thing that we do here at E2C Network. In fact, the main show that we have is the Auburn Experience. Tomorrow night, 9 Eastern time. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a great one, as it always is, episode 160. We would love to have you there live. You can join our very lively chat at times, and as they try to make me and Austin break throughout the show, as we're not really engaging with the chat all that much until the end when we do a Q&A. So join us for that, 9 Eastern time tomorrow. You can catch the replay as well, or catch the audio part of the podcast when it comes out, ready for you guys early Monday morning. So that's there for you. There is no basketball game this week, unless I looked at the calendar wrong. And there's nothing on Wednesday, so we will have an Auburn family night. Join us, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, Wednesday night live call-in opportunity. We didn't do it last week, so I'm looking forward to this, to hearing from you all. We'll break it down. Lots to talk about. In fact, I believe we are scheduled to hear from the head coach of football, Galesh, and a lot of interviews, and some of the staff as well about this transfer portal class and recruiting class so far this year. So there will be a lot to talk about in that realm too. So you don't want to miss Auburn's Family Night. Join us for that. And of course, we'll be back next Saturday for another post-game stream. Join us then too. And there may be other stuff throughout the week. That is your tentative schedule at this point. Okay, couple of things here. I thought Freeman or Sway would have been the one to step up tonight, but they never really got there. Yeah, you look at Freeman tonight with 7 points, had that really big play. Sway started really good earlier on, but hasn't really come along. It didn't come along scoring-wise throughout the game. But yeah, I mean, they could have been candidates. Keyshawn also, I thought we could have gotten a little bit more out of him scoring tonight, which would have been nice, but he did some good things in other areas as well. Unbeaten Lake says, I hope no one gets injured. We don't have the depth to recover. I wouldn't say that necessarily, but certainly if you take some very key injuries in key spots, it makes the way you have to win a little bit more difficult and a little bit more unique. But certainly that is not something that we want to see happen. Obviously, 2 moments tonight that were a little bit discouraging for that. This is from War Eagle G27. Kyle, do you believe that Keyshawn Hall can be that true point guard? And do you see Steven move one of those forwards to play that position since we don't have a true point guard? I disagree with the notion that we don't have a true point guard. Tahad is the true point guard, whether people want him to be or not. But no, I don't foresee that in any way. Keyshawn Hall does well when he is not the person needing to be setting up to play. I think, once again, I think your question, if I'm maybe reading a bunch into it, is around this premise that you had different expectations for Tahad Pettiford this year. And frankly, that's a fair assessment, but also we have to recognize that he's being asked to do a lot of different things. So no, I would not move Keyshawn Hall over to the point guard, nor would I even suggest that to the coach, because he knows them better than his. But hey, if he decides to do that, and you called it here on the show, so no, I wouldn't see any of that. I think sometimes we as fans get desperate when games like this come up and it feels like we just hit a wall we couldn't get past. Like something's got to change. Well, this team did really well over this really tough stretch. And there's still more tough stretches to go. But I wouldn't look for any big changes like that right now unless the head coach deems it. Let's see here. Blake says, Kyle for player of the game. Oh, Kyle for player of the game for always bringing a good show. Thank you. I was like, what did this guy named Kyle do? And then I realized, yeah, sorry. I thought you were saying Kyle. I didn't see. I read a comment into it. Thank you, Blake. Yeah, I do want to tag Todd as the true point guard. Here's the reason why, and it's fine if you don't believe that. The coach has deemed him as that. He is your starting point guard. He is the true point guard, and they know more than we do, and we have to trust in that. And just because he doesn't score the way you wanted to doesn't make him a true point guard. In fact, some of the best point guards in the world were not known for their scoring, but the way they distribute the ball and the way they do things very differently, or not different. Do things defensively, and Tahad has done that very well this year. One of the things that was brought up, I think it was in the press conference this week with Steven, but it may have been somewhere else. What happens when Tahad finally does pop off offensively when you've already got Keyshawn Hall going, and we've seen what Kevin Overton can do, and then you've also got any one of these guys, Freeman, Murphy, Sebastian Williams, Adams, even Jovic, can just also pop off with them at the same time. This is a team you don't want to run into if all those things are coinciding together. And that's a lot of ifs. I understand that. But that might be the final missing piece there. Yeah, I would say Keyshawn Hall plays whatever he needs to play in whatever position he needs to play. There are certain guys that they are just that good and just that versatile. And you can see why you put them in their starting lineup and you give them the ball, and that's what they do very well. All right, I think there are a couple more things. Let me look back here. This is from WT. I think it seemed like their defense took away a lot of our inside game. The refs not calling some fouls on Tennessee helped them, but I do not blame the game on the refs. Well, it sounds like you do. I'm just kidding. AU does well with drawing fouls. They certainly do. Let's look at personal fouls tonight since you brought it up. 23 for Auburn, personal fouls to 19. So yeah, you could make a case for home cooking, but it's not that big of a differential. Free throws tonight, 31 for Tennessee, 20 for Auburn attempted. I think I read that. No, I see where I got that. I had a little bit of dyslexia going on there with the way I read that. But yeah, maybe the whistle was a little bit more favorable tonight, not that much. I think I covered all those other points in there. We'll get rid of this person here who doesn't need to be part of these type of discussions because they're ridiculous. But anyway, all right. So there you go. Thank you guys for being here and hanging out with us this evening. I know these ones aren't always the most fun to do, but they are certainly still valuable because it helps build the full narrative so you don't overreact like Pete was there and say ridiculous things on social media. But thank you guys for joining us again. As your final reminder here, your final score, 77-69. The Auburn Tigers fall to Tennessee in Knoxville on a challenging night for them, finishing out a very challenging stretch of road games for them, or at least a series of them with one home game in the middle of it. Your leading scorer tonight, and if you were going to give a player of the game, once again, Keyshawn Hall coming on very strong at the end with 21 points. And then your stat of the game, I think, has got to be the rebound differential, 46-30. It's quite hard to overcome, especially when you're playing on the road. With that being said, 77-69, the Auburn Tigers fall to Tennessee. Thank you guys for joining us, being part of our little family within the Auburn family, and we thank you so much for being here. As we go, I remind you, the Auburn Creed asks you to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God.